Hello and welcome everyone to our guest lecture series 2021 organized by the Department of Religious Study and the Ariel Graduate Council of University of West. And my name is Miroj Shakya, Chair of the Department of Religious Study. And this guest lecture is a part of our fall courses, Religion of India. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Deepak Shimkhada accepting my invitation to be a guest lecturer for this course. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Shimkhada. Dr. Shimkhada is a Nepali American educator, artist, art historian, author, and community leader. He is currently served as an adjunct professor at Chaffey College in Rancho Cucamonga, California. He has previously held visiting and adjunct appointment at several universities in the United States, including Scripps College, Claremont Graduate University, California State University Northridge, University of West, and Claremont School of Theology. He is the founding president of Indix Foundation and the Himalayan Art Council. He is also a founding board member of the South Asian Studies Association. He has published many books, among them The Constant and Changing Face of the Goddess Tradition of Asia, popular Buddhist mantras in Sanskrit, Himalayans at the Crossroad, Portraits of the Changing World, and Nepal, Nostalgia and Modernity. In addition to that, he has published many journal and newspaper articles, book chapter, and edited books. As an artist, he has also exhibited his painting and graphics in group and one-man show in Nepal, India, Japan, and in the United States. Notably, he has appeared as a commentator in several episodes of the History Channel series, Ancient Alien. And the topic of today's lecture is Vision of the Divine Feminine in Hinduism. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Shimkhada.
Thank you. Namaste. I must begin my talk with a disclaimer. In my life, I have been surrounded by the real goddesses. They are my wife, our two bright and beautiful daughters, two granddaughters, three sisters, many nieces, female friends and colleagues. And one of my daughters is participating in this lecture, Dr. Shimkhada. My approach to the goddess studies is rather radical and out of the box. So be prepared to hear my views and see images that you have not heard of or seen before. Having said that, I thank Professor Shakya for inviting me to share my ideas with you today. I am pleased to be here, no doubt. Thank you all for joining. I see a few friends joining from Nepal. It is almost 11 p.m. in Kathmandu, and I thank you for staying up so late. As the title of my presentations, Visions of the Divine Feminine in Hinduism suggests, a female is seen as a divine being in Hinduism. So theoretically, therefore, all females are goddesses by virtue of being divine. In South India, for example, all females, young or old, are addressed as Amma. That means mother. Therefore, females are vessels of the goddess, the divine feminine. In today's talk, I will focus primarily on the female principle as a creative force, and we'll try to show how she is portrayed in art, religion, culture, and society in general. Since I'm speaking about the goddess tradition in Hinduism, I must begin my talk with India, where the religion of the Vedas started thousands of years ago. If you look at the map of the Indian subcontinent, within which independent countries like Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka are located, it is shaped like a yoni. Yoni meaning a female reproductive organ. Because the geographic formation of Indian subcontinent itself is feminine in shape, it can be said that South Asia is the land of the goddess, whose images and practices are found wherever Hinduism is practiced. Let me show you share my slides. In Tantrism, an inverted triangle, which you see here in a red inverted triangle, is a symbol of the female genital called yoni. And right here, and if you take this triangle and superimpose on the map of South Asia, as you can see, this fits very well. So, and that is why, you know, the geographical mecca of Indian subcontinent is seen as in the shape of a yoni. And there are several images here. Those who practice Tantrism, Tantric, you know, religion, and it would be familiar with this yoni mudra, with the hand gesture. Usually, I mean, of course, Prajul is here today, and he would be able to, you know, share his experience. This is the mudra with which goddess is worshipped right here, and also the Shiva Linga is right here. This is the yoni shaped, and then in the middle you have Shiva Linga. We'll talk about that later. Nepal is therefore home to many goddesses, and for that matter, it has remained the seat of tantric practices. There are many temples dedicated to one or another form of goddess, as I will shortly show with some copious examples. Famous among them are Manokamana. Those who have lived in Nepal know what Manokamana is and where it is. Pathivara, Vajrayogini, Dakshin Kali, Ashtamatrikas, Ajima, Sitala, Manasa, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Kali, and many others with whom we already are familiar. The visions of the goddess in Nepal is therefore tantric in nature. Another cult of Nepal is quite interesting, and that is Kumari, the cult of the living goddess, who is a virgin. Kumari, the veneration of pubescent girls, just before they menstruate. That is the stage, and she is considered to be potent, is considered to be very powerful as a living goddess, and she is alive and well in Nepal even after the dissolution of the monarchy in 2008. And I will also show you a little later on the Kumari and the the monarch, the ruling, the king, are very much connected to each other. And she is the one who gives him the mandate to rule for a year. So that means the king has to go to visit Kumari every year to receive her blessings, to receive that mandate to rule for 1 year. While the practice originally came from India, it has died out there while the practice still continues in Nepal. No culture other than South Asian has understood energy in the form of the feminine. Both physical and spiritual energies are feminine in nature, in character. While energy produced by electricity is physical, no doubt, because when we touch electric current, it hurts you. And the energy produced by Kundalini yoga is spiritual. Both are energy nonetheless, and they are feminine in gender. Now let me share my slide again. This is today's Kumari, living goddess in Nepal. And then again, she has to come from a specific caste, which is, our Professor Shakya is here, and he will be able to vouchsafe for my statement. She has to be from Shakya family. And now you can see she's a beautiful living goddess, and then she rules until she menstruates. And then when she menstruates, then she disqualifies to be a living goddess. Then another search goes on to find another goddess, living goddess. All right. And she is intimately connected with the ruling house of Nepal. Now, of course, the kingship has gone away So Nepal is a republic now, but to my understanding, even the president goes to receive her blessings every year. And this, of course, is the painting of Kundalini yoga. When someone sits in a lotus position and starts meditating, harnessing that energy, the Kundalini, which is located at the base of the spine, and it travels through various stages. They are called centers of energy, called chakras, and goes all the way to the head, to the top of the head. And that is when you are able to reach that energy to your crown chakra, and then you become enlightened, you become clairvoyant. So this is the idea of Kundalini yoga, and that is also feminine in gender. Now, here is the the tradition of Kumari in India, which is still practiced today, but not in the same way as it is practiced in Nepal. In India, the Kumari, the young girls are honored, worshipped just for one day, for a few hours. But in Nepal, she is the living goddess, lives until several years, until she menstruates. So this tradition started out in Kanyakumari. There is a place called Kanyakumari at the tip of India, right there, and the tradition goes back to millennium, very early times of Indian history. And many Hindu rituals and practices that began in India have been lost due to foreign invasions. And as you know, India has been, colonized, ruled by many forces and powers from outside of India, especially from the west part of India, Muslims and British and whatnot. So all these the old practices are now pretty much wiped out. They are not being instituted as it was in the past. But Nepal, being its geographical location, is such that it provides the insulation, it provides the isolation, so to say, and that has preserved many of the traditions that used to be practiced in India. So Nepal, in a sense, has become the repository of many Hindu practices, many Hindu traditions that were once prevalent in India. Now, this is the past Kumari, former Kumari. She has her own house called Kumari Ghar, and where she lives, and then she rules from there, and she receives a daily puja, daily worship from the priest every day, and this is her throne, and she carries a scepter with which she rules, and this is a daily worship done to her every day. By the way, that was not a, let me go back, and that was not the Kathmandu Kumaris, so to say. There are many Kumaris in every city, but the Kathmandu Kumari is the one who is associated with the king. This is Patan Kumari, so Patan Kumari is still a Kumari, living goddess, but she is not intimately connected with the king. Now, male and female and Shiva and Shakti, we have been, we have heard about Shiva and Shakti every day. People talk about Shiva Shakti, and then I can kind of, juxtapose that with the idea of how it relates to science, electrons and protons, negative and positive elements. When they are two combined, then you can produce energy. So, within a Hindu philosophical framework, consciousness is Purusha, that is a male, and the nature, which is the Prakriti, that's nature, is feminine in gender. She is a female. So coming together of these two principles, both are polar principles, north and south, the polar principles, that creates the universe and everything in it. In science, there are negative and positive charges, as we know, like in proton and neutron and diatomic molecules. Through the merging of these particles, the scientists believe that the universe was created with the idea of Big Bang theory. Of course, we know that Big Bang theory. So according to Big Bang theory, the universe was created some 14 billion years ago from the explosion. And then, of course, everything then, of course, it started developing, evolving from there on. And the idea was that, when the energy was concentrated in a high density and temperature, and that is what exploded. And I would like you to keep that in mind when I talk about the creation of goddess Durga, how the goddess Durga, who is a very powerful goddess in Hindu pantheon, how she was created, with the same idea of the energy exploding, and then the Durga, the great goddess, emerging from that, the concentration of powers, energy. So there is some parallels that I see, that I find, and that is what I'm trying to kind of, give it to you. Whether or not you agree with that, that's something else, but this is what I believe. And in many ways, the goddess can be worshipped, goddess can be honored, goddess can be appreciated in Hindu traditions. So for example, there are many trees and many plants which are also the feminine in character, in gender. For example, the worship of a plant called tulsi, which is basically a basil plant. Of course, today basil is considered as a medicinal herb plant, and it is worshipped in Hindu tradition. She is a goddess. And also the tree, the people tree, Ficus religiosa. And of course, those who are Buddhist would know what this people tree is. And of course, Buddha received his enlightenment sitting under this gigantic tree, people tree, Ficus religiosa, for 40 days and 40 nights until he got enlightened. So this Bodhi tree, often been called Bo tree or Bodhi tree, is that tree, people tree, and it is also feminine in nature. And it is this tree, some believe that gave Buddha to be enlightened. So in Buddha's life, there have been many women are connected in his life, not only living beings like his wife and his mother and so on and so forth, but also this tree, which is also feminine in gender, helped him to get enlightenment. So rice planting is also done by women, and there are some pictures here. You can see the men go to the field just to prepare the field, and once the field is prepared, and then the women go to the field carrying the rice plants, and they plant the rice plants. So this is only done by women because they are the domain of women. The fields are the domain of the women, and they are considered an agency of fertility. Plants and trees are imbued with life-giving force. For example, the Ekchi itself is a tree spirit. She is part of the tree. She is a tree spirit, and with the kick of her left heel, she can fructify a dead tree. She can bring it back to life, and so to say. And then the tree starts sprouting the leaves, and then it blossoms, and then pretty soon you will see the fruits bearing and then ripening. And for example, the ripe mango is so delicious to eat, and it is the Ekchi who makes it happen. So Ekchi is very, very important. And then oftentimes you will see the figure of Ekchi is usually intertwined with the tree trunk. She is always clasping, holding the branch of a tree, and after all, she is the spirit of the tree. Now, the goddess comes in many forms, but again, we have to understand there is only one goddess, the universal goddess, who is actually a mother goddess. She is seen as a mother, and she is just one. Who is the archetype goddess is a mother goddess, and from that one mother, then you get all these manifestations, emanations of the same goddess. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of names, and I'm just giving you just a few of them here. Sati, Uma, Parvati, Gauri, Durga, Kali, Chamunda, Ambika, Bhadrakali, Ugrakali, Mahamaya, Manasa, Sitala, Saptamatrikas. There are 7 mothers, there are 8 mothers, Ashtamatrikas, and Dasa Mahavidyas, 10 great wisdoms. There are also the goddess, the wisdom that we ascribe. It is the mother who has the wisdom. It's not the men that have wisdom. All right. Mahamaya, the great illusion, she is also the mother, as well as she is also the one who gives us the ignorance, the great illusion, puts us into great illusion. She is that. It's amazing. The dichotomy of goddess is just totally fathomless. We have to understand it's the same goddess can give you, the wisdom, give you knowledge. At the same time, she can also put you in a darkness, in ignorance, in a great illusion. And then again, she comes. Then after devotion, then she comes to remove that illusion. So she is a fundamental figure that gives you everything. So the females, I think, why female has been elevated to the position of goddess. I think in the prehistoric times, of course, if you like 30,000, 40,000 years back, when in the cave, when people still used to live in the caves, and in the prehistoric times, we have found there are several images of the goddesses, and perhaps those people understood that a woman, a female, has the awesome power to create new life. Okay, it's the only woman that can, has that capacity, has that capability. Because of that, I think she was elevated to the position of the goddess. This is my understanding. Now, in Hinduism, the goddesses can be seen in many different forms, many different pairs. Now we have a triad of 3 goddesses. We have the Buddhist triad. Now we have a Hindu god triad, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Now again, here we have the female triad, and they are, which is called 3 Devis. 3 meaning 3, Devis means goddesses, 3 goddesses, and they're usually called 3 sisters, right? 3 sisters are, first, the Lakshmi that you see to your left. In the middle, you have the Durga, who is a kind of militant goddess, kind of warrior goddess. And of course, as a warrior, she rides on, the Bengal tiger. Sometimes she is also given lion. Between lion and tiger is a kind of alternative animal, but both of them are, the king of the jungle, is a very ferocious animal. So she is given that as her mount, and she rides on the lion or the tiger, and then she has now 8 hands, as opposed to 4 her other sisters, because she is a warrior. She has to go out and to be effective in war. So she has 8 hands, and each of the hands, carries some weapons. And of course, one hand carries lotus flower. She's not only militant, she's not only punishing, she's not only aggressive, she is also very peaceful, she is loving, and she offers you beautiful lotus flower if she is pleased. So she has that both positions, punishing, fighting, as well as, giving you boon, what you want. So she has that both dualities in herself. And then you have the Saraswati, who is the goddess of learning, wisdom. She gives you, knowledge, and all the students are devotees of Saraswati. She is also the learning, in the sense that she not only teaches fine arts. Of course, she is carrying a sitar, the musical instrument. She is also the teacher of science and the humanities, and every fields of discipline, every fields of learning. So fine arts, performing arts, science, literature, you name it. All right, she is the guru of everything that we need to learn. And then, of course, the Lakshmi is one here carrying to the very left. carrying lotuses, and then she is also bestowing, the the goddess of wealth, usually called goddess of wealth, and then she literally gives you coins, gold coins, money, like in Las Vegas. She drops some money on the floor from a slot machine, kind of thing. So she is the goddess of wealth, dealing with money and wealth. And then, of course, the goddess of warrior goddess, Durga. And then, of course, you have the Saraswati, the learning. So there are the three different aspects of the same mother goddess. Now, sometimes I can compare these goddesses, with my own wife. So for example, these three manifestations of the same Shakti energy principle, right? That primordial goddess is, of course, Parvati. Parvati is the wife of Shiva, and she is also the mother of two adorable boys, Kumara, who is Kartikeya or Kumara, the same name. And then, of course, you have the Ganesha. Those are the two boys. And and as Parvati, so for example, my wife fulfills all these roles, right? As Parvati, she's the mother of our two brilliant daughters, and as Lakshmi, she manages the homemaker, and comfort giver, happiness, provides happiness and all that. And as Durga, she is willing to go to war with me if I'm wrong. It is that character that all women have. As Saraswati, then she's the great counselor, great provider of wisdom, so and so forth. So one person fits all of those roles, all of those qualities. Now let's examine each of these three goddesses, the three main goddesses, who are the manifestation of one Parvati, right? And then as a Lakshmi, now you can see she sits in front of a pot of gold coins, and but then usually this is how she's portrayed. When you say goddess of wealth, money comes to mind, and then of course artists always try to give you a pot of gold, the gold coins piling up in a bucket or in a tray. But to me, the wealth is not only limited to money, limited to coins or the money. The wealth means your home is also wealth, a symbol of wealth. Your family is also a symbol of wealth. If you have a wonderful family, supportive family, that is a great wealth, right? And then of course you have the wisdom. If you have wisdom to live a great life, that is also wisdom. And where you live, your neighbors, loving neighbors, peaceful neighbors, so that is also wealth, consider as wealth. And your friends and other families, these are all taken together as wealth. It's not only having a money. If you have $1 billion and then the mansion home, you're living there, and your surroundings is always chaos, and your neighbors hate you, and you don't have family, and all that, and your health is bad, poor. What is the means of that wealth, $1 billion, right? So it's a happiness, the happiness that brings you, the wealth is part of that happiness. So happiness, the wealth, the goddess of wealth, includes all of that. That is why often the Hindus call Lakshmi also Suri. Suri is an inclusive of all of that, which I just said. Friends, family, society, country, the time, peaceful time, that's all included in the package of wealth. It's not only money. And now, as I just said, this Lakshmi, who is a solo picture that you see, now she becomes she multiplies herself into 8 different roles. And now, for example, having a good family, children. Sometimes women are not happy because they cannot conceive. They go and adopt that's not a happy life. If she can able to produce children, and then good children, loving children, and that gives you happiness. So here she is with a child, and here she is with she's been adored, and then here she is with various roles. I can go on, but since the lack of time, I cannot go into detail of all of the roles that the Lakshmi plays. And then let's go to another aspect of the same goddess. Now she now is perceived or viewed as Dasa Mahavidyas. Vidya meaning knowledge, wisdom. Dasa is 10. So 10 great wisdoms, and let's examine them. Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari, Bhubaneswari, Vairavi, Chinnamasta, Dummati, and Bagalamukhi, Matangi, and Kamala. There's all 3 to 8 to 10 different aspects of the same Mahavidyas. And of all these, Chinnamasta is my favorite goddess model. And here she severs her head and to feed her devotees, feed her followers who are in need of, if they're hungry, and she won't mind sacrificing herself in order to feed her followers, her devotees. So that's the ultimate, the sacrifice that the goddess makes in order to keep you happy. So this is a great roles of these great Mahavidyas. So she comes in these forms. And then, of course, so we just had Dasai in a celebration of a goddess just past week, which is also called Navaratri, 9 nights of the goddess Navaratri, and they're also called Navadurgas. On each night, each form of goddess is worshipped. And for example, there are 9 goddesses, Sailaputri, Brahmacharini, and Chandraganta, all of these names. So they're all different aspects of the same goddess, and each night the different aspects of the goddess is worshipped. So how she multiplies into so many different roles. That's amazing. And then we have other forms of goddesses in Nepal. Say for Annapurna. Now goddess is seen in the form of food. We need food to survive. Without food, no one can survive. So she is also gives us food, right? The grain, usually the grains, the rice, barley, wheat, and all that, and of course the vegetables and the fruits and all that. So food is the primary source, and then she is the goddess, and then Annapurna is that goddess who provides food. And then Jwalamukhi is usually a volcano. Now the angry form of volcano, when the volcano erupts, it can destroy. So it is also that aspect of goddess. Eruption happens, earthquake happens, the great typhoon, Katrina happens. All of these are the angry manifestations of the goddess when she is not happy, and then she erupts into volcano, into earthquake, into causes a lot of damages through cyclone and then hurricane and all that. And there's a Vaishno Devi, the famous temple in India, Siddha Lakshmi, and this is the painting of Siddha Lakshmi, and Lakshmi that gives you success, Siddha Lakshmi, and which is very popular form of Lakshmi in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and she used to be the patron deity of the Malla kings. And my colleague, Dr. Stanisar Timilsana, has written a monograph about Siddha Lakshmi, and I encourage you to read. And then he goes into detail describing all the aspects of Siddha Lakshmi. And then we also have Guhye Suri in Nepal. Guhye meaning secret. She is the goddess of secret, secret knowledge, secret human, the secret parts of the human body. So she is that. Bhagavati Talleju Bhavani, Kumari, of course, I talked about Kumari earlier, Dakshin Kali, Vadrakali. All right, these are the different forms of goddesses. Now, these goddesses keep evolving. People keep inventing new forms of goddesses. There are many stories. I can spend days and times in Nepal. One, the Mahisa Marsani has been defined as a different interpretation by tourist guides to make. They are the great storytellers. The story that they can tell, they can hook up these put them in a spellbound situation. That's why they like to tell you in juicy stories, and then they make up, they invent these stories. And this story has gone into a book, and I was wondering what happened, where did it come from? Because in the Devi Mahatmya, there's no mention of this. And then all of a sudden I see this in a book. And then of course I happen to know the author. So when I called him up, and he said, well, I did not read it in a book, but then, a tourist guide told me this story. See, and the tourist guide told him that story, and now it has become a myth of that particular goddess. So Santoshi Ma also came into being in India in the 1960s. And then they made a movie. And after that, now all of a sudden, she becomes popular in India. Now they have a temple, they have, iconography and this and that. So, the new goddess has been created, has been evolved. So, as time goes by, people, keep inventing these goddesses. And in Nepal, then we have another new goddess, which is called Pati Bara Devi. There are several temples have now popping up, in different places. So that's also a new goddess. Now let's again examine these individual goddesses. This is Saraswati, of course, one who plays Veena. This is actually Veena, not necessarily sitar. Sitar and Veena are similar looking instrument, but this one is called Veena as opposed to sitar. So, and she's a great performer, a musician. And now all the rivers in Nepal and in India, Hindu country, they are named after goddesses. I mean, the water has been seen in a form of goddess because it's a feminine gender, right? Water. And we have the two great rivers of India, River Ganges, and right here, beautiful lady standing on an aquatic creature here. And there's another, her sister, and then the river Yamuna is called her sister. Sister Yamuna is standing here on another aquatic creature. So beautiful image in a very S-curve position. These are the hallmarks of Indian art. The figures are never static, never kind of stiff. They're always very supple. They're always very delicately done with ample breast, large hips. And again, the hips usually juts out either to the right or to the left. And then, she stands on a very relaxed positions on a Dehansma position, total contrapposto position, and very beautifully depicted these goddesses. All right, now then we begin to, move on. We can, Hinduism sees a goddess in everything, not only in water, in trees, but also in also in the animals. For example, the cow, and of course the holy cow. Of course, we have the expression of holy cow. And why the Hindus do not eat beef, do not kill cows, because of this. This is the cow called Kamadhenu. Now, Kamadhenu is Kama is desire, Dhenu that which fulfills your desire, and she has often been called as the wish-fulfilling cow. Now, remember, there is a myth, there is a legend coming from the Middle Eastern countries, the genie. The genie, when you rub the the lamp, he comes out and he grants you 3 wishes, only 3 wishes, right? And there have been a lot of stories on the movies. But then this Kamadhenu cow, she gives you unlimited wishes, not just only 3, unlimited wishes. I have written a kind of delightful story for the kids. Suri, with the name. She has multiple names. Kamadhenu is the original name, and then she has, she can also be called Suravi or Nandini, and the different names. So this Kamadhenu cow then gives you multiple wishes and fulfills your wishes. And then she was obtained from heaven. She came down from heaven to earth, and she was produced from this cosmic churning. And then she is this great cow with magical powers. And then she can also fly. And you can see here, she has a tail of a peacock, and then feathers of a bird. And she is seen as a female, a body, face of a female person. So she is that Kamadhenu cow. And then of course people worship cow because she's every product that she gives is beneficial to our health. She gives us milk, and milk is good for health. And from milk we can make a yogurt. From yogurt we can make a butter. And of course her cow dung is also very useful, and it disinfects the bacteria, and where there are no trees and things like that. And the cow dung can also be turned into a cake, and it can be dried up, and it serves as a fuel for cooking, and it's a very good, multiple things. And of course when she dies, her skin can be used for shoes and various products and things like that. So everything that she is useful for our human life, for sustenance. That is why cow is not killed. Cow is considered sacred. And I also forgot to tell you about her urine. Urine also has a medicinal purpose. It's an antibacterial qualities that a urine has. So every product that the cows gives is useful. And then of course we have the Sita, the wife of Rama, who was the incarnation of Vishnu. And then of course there's a whole story about Sita, how Sita was abducted, and how Rama went to Sri Lanka and have a big battle killing Ravana and is to rescue his wife. And then Radha, to our left, is another beautiful young lady. Radha plays a very important part in the life of Krishna. Krishna is another Hindu god, incarnation of Vishnu, eighth incarnation of Vishnu. And the Radha is not, sometimes people confuse Radha with Krishna's wife. Radha was never his wife, because Radha is already married to someone else. She's simply a devotee of Krishna, but her devotion is so great that so they are connected because of her devotion to him. And then of course he loves her for her devotion. So that's why Radha and Krishna go together, not as a married couple, but in that spiritual context, they are two united spiritually. So Radha is that. And oftentimes it has also been said that perhaps it is Lakshmi who incarnated in the form of Radha, and that is why she is attracted to him and he's attracted to her. It's a very complex relationship. There have been a lot of books written about that. And now let's go to examine another form, a very interesting form that we find only in Hinduism, and which is called the androgynous form of God Shiva. Shiva is one God who combines both male and female elements within his body. Of course, we all have some X and Y chromosomes within us, but then of course because of our what sex is determined by the more the one gene determines our sex. But in the case of Shiva, Ardha Narishwara, the word itself, Ardha Narishwara, a half man, half woman, Ardha. And that one he is here shown. So his figure, his body is split 50-50 right in the middle. Okay, left half is his female counterpart, his female form, which is obviously Parvati, his wife. And then the right half is male part, which is Shiva. So this is how, his body has been split. And then many artists have, actually, shown in that fashion, splitting the body into two halves and then, portraying Ardhanarishwara that way. Now, Parvati is female, right? We know that. And that means she has energy, power, vitality, like it's active energy, active power. And that's what makes Shiva to act. Without her, he cannot even move, and he becomes Shava. There's a play, in Sanskrit, of course. Many of you who are taking Sanskrit, who know Sanskrit, would know there's a, the how beautifully the Sanskrit language is that, Shiva is the auspicious, is the one who is active, auspicious, alive and well and all that, the beautiful Shiva. And then when you remove Parvati from that Shiva, then it becomes Shava. The word Shiva is just the opposite of Shava. Shiva is active, beautiful, auspicious, and then the moment he becomes Shava, it becomes corpse, just the opposite of his active quality. So he becomes Shava, a corpse, and of course, as a corpse, he cannot do anything, right? He's dead. So that is why the female energy is so important in Hindu religion, in the Hindu context, in the theology, without which gods are nothing, gods are dead. It is the energy, it is the Shakti, it is the female energy that makes them who they are, because she gives them energy to activate, to be alive. So in that sense, then the female is a source of life. And there's also, I remember the expression, the proverb, behind every successful man, there is a woman. Obviously, this is a direct distillation of the Hindu idea of Ardhanarishwara. Now, the profusion of images, especially of the female images in a Hindu temple, you can imagine, the presence of the female images in the Hindu temple is, gives you that expression of beautifulness, expression of joy to see beautiful images. I think we're running out of time. I'm going to show you a very new interpretation of the same Ardhanarishwara, painted by some modern artists in Nepal and India, and also there is a bronze image of Ardhanarishwara from South India, and there is a beautiful image of Ardhanarishwara from Nepal. This is in Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and to your right is Ardhanarishwara as understood by a Cambodian Khmer artist from Cambodia. And there is another Ardhanarishwara from South India, but this is a stone image of Ardhanarishwara. And it's always a presence of a large breast to the left, and also the jutting, the kind of broad hips and jutting out of the hip is kind of, showing in that S-curve fashion. And this is another beautiful image. Shiva is flying, Ardhanarishwara half male, half female, another headless Ardhanarishwara from Cambodia. So let me go very quickly. This one is from Basuli, from hill regions of India. There's a Basuli school. And here is interesting because the artist actually conjoins the both male body and the two heads. We have never seen it before. This is one head simply, having various anatomical elements on the same body. But here the artist actually, puts male and female two bodies together like a conjoined figure. That's interesting. This one is from Central India, Khajuraho temple of the 10th, 11th century, inspired by the Tantric cult. And there's some modern interpretation of Ardhanarishwara by various artists. And now Shiva is passive because he's, invariably withdraws from daily life. Then he goes into meditation for a length of time. So, and then he also represents metaphysics beyond physical. So because he possesses nothing, because as a yogi, as you can see, he's pretty much naked and he does not have any possession in himself. So he represents Sangara, destruction. So the concept of destruction is associated with him because it also has a theological meaning. After we lose our body, we lose everything, and then what remains is that the self, the Atman, that goes into the ultimate Brahman, the ultimate reality. So because I'm going to run very quickly, I think we're running out of time. So there are a lot of ways this idea of male and female could be represented and have been represented by various artists. And here is one, and Prakriti and Shiva. And here is one that in a tantric symbol. This is the inverted triangle, which is the symbol of female energy in red. The redness, signifies the blood of women's menstruating blood. And then in the center, you have a white dot, and that white dot is the Purusha, the consciousness. Bija meaning seed. That seed refers to the white semen. All right, then I'm going to go from the move from theology to the mundane. I think you might find this little kind of out of the box. So let me compare Shakti with a gun. Of course, a gun today is very popular in America. Everyone has a love affair who wants to have a gun. A gun has a barrel and chambers, while a barrel is like a linga, because it's a long projectile. The bullet chamber is like a yoni, because it's a hole. It's a yoni where the bullet is kept. For speed and striking, what we need is, and it is necessary to have these elements. So the chamber houses the bullets, firing pin, and a bullet primer, right? And with the ignition, then it fires. So that ignition power is what is the female energy. Without that, the gun has no value. Gun is dead. You cannot fire it. Then what is the purpose of having a gun if it does not fire bullet? So that firing element is that energy. That energy is feminine, according to my understanding. So we can compare this with the idea of the Shakti we have been talking about. So let me also go with a few examples. Any projectile is that like the Shiva has a Shiva Linga, which is the shaft, his procreative male organ is that projectile. And the projectiles comes in many different forms. Like our ancestors had arrows and lances and things like that, pillars, sticks, baseball bats, cane, shaft, nails, and all these, and even the drill. And the drill is a destructive tool. It bores hole. Anything that bores it destroys. That I have destroyed many of my furniture while trying to drill. So so it is a destructive tool. So we can compare this with the linga. Now here, the iconic symbol of linga, Shiva linga, is, of course, this is what it is. The linga is the shaft that stands, and to stand you need a base. That base is that yoni. The yoni is what provides stability to the linga, is that yoni. And then, of course, it is also receptacle. It holds amniotic fluid. It holds the water, okay? So that gives life. So there is a relationship between the linga and yoni, and this is how the Shiva linga is represented, symbolically. So without going into details, the Shiva linga can be found just the linga, as you see to your left, and also Shiva linga with a face of Shiva. There is one called Ika Mukha linga, and then of course you have Chaturmukha Linga, the facing 4 different directions. And there is also the great the Shiva Linga from Pasupatinath Temple, the famous Pasupatinath Temple in Kathmandu. Now Nepal is the land of Tantra. Now both Sati and Parvati, are believed to have been born and lived in Nepal. And this is the place where Sati meditated at the banks of the Bhagmati River. And then when Shiva became pleased, and then they got married. And of course, Parvati is the daughter of Himalaya, the snow-capped mountain. She is the daughter of mountain. So these are all connected with Nepal. And another great temple that I am fond of, that I'm fascinated, is this Guhya Suri temple in Kathmandu, which is located on the banks of the river, Bhagmati River. And as a Guhya Suri, secret part of the goddess, you can imagine what is the secret part of a goddess, and this is what it represents. And there is no icon, there is no image of the goddess, and there's simply a water, the spring water, and the spring water is covered with this a water pitcher, and this is a kalasha which is filled with water, and it sits on the mouth of this the well, the spring well. There's a water down there, it sits up there. So this is all symbolic of amniotic fluid of the goddess. And this temple is also very, in many ways, I find it parallel to or similar to the Kamakya, the famous Kamakya temple in Assam. And there's also no icon, there's also simply a water. It represents a goddess, the creative power. And there are many, many images coming all over from Kathmandu, how the yoni is represented. There's a famous Tusahiti in Patan. I've just finished an article on this, so which will be coming out in a book, in a journal in December. And look at this. This is all a secret rites taking place, puberty rite of this girl, sitting down here. And there is a Shivalinga down here, and all of these. And this is the best story that I want to spend just a few minutes, if you may, if you allow me. I'm Professor Shakya. This is a rare picture from the Hanumandoka Palace, which is now no public can go inside. This is has been locked up, and very few people have gained access to this room, which is, as I said, locked up. And the paintings were destroyed during the 1934 big earthquake that destroyed many of the buildings, many of the structures in Nepal in 1934, and the cracks that you see, that was caused by that earthquake. And I gained access to this room in 1971, just before I came to the US, and I photographed all of these paintings. There's a whole paintings is called mural painting, fresco painting on the walls of this big room from the Devi Mahatmya. There's a text dedicated to goddess Devi, goddess Durga, and so all of these things are painted there. And this is the birth of Durga, how Durga was born, how Durga was. I mean, Durga, of course, the goddess has already been there. She's been there. She's ever present. She's ever pervasive. But then Shiva, the goddess Durga, has to be aroused, has to be brought back to act. And then, of course, she gave the gods her energy to be who they are, right? I have already talked to you earlier, because she's the one who provides energy, Shakti, for the god to be God, to act. And now, when the gods needed a bigger Shakti to fight the demonic forces, and then they have to go and arouse the goddess, and they projected their energies into this one point, into this middle area. And when all the energy got consolidated, became kind of in a bindu, in a point, and that energy grew bigger, and a ball of fire, as you can see here. And remember that the explosion that the Big Bang Theory talks about, this one concentrated energy became so big, so, I mean, strong, and then it could not contain, and then it exploded, into this universe. That is what the Big Bang Theory talks about. And here I find kind of similar parallel here. And then goddess, then the energy focused in this place became so so strong, so large that it could not retain. Then it exploded and then from there the goddess Durga emerged, with all the power, with all the 16 hands, carrying weapons, various weapons of mass destruction. And then she said, "How can I help you?" And then the goddess goes into action, because demonic forces had dethroned all these the gods from heaven. So this demon has been acting up, has been persecuting the gods, and then so it goes into fighting. And then the fighting takes place, and here's the goddess, and she's ready to go to fight, go to war, riding on her lion, carrying different weapons, and so and so forth. And of course, then she finally kills the Mahishasura, the demon that disguises into various forms. Sometimes he tries to trick her by appearing as an elephant, as a lion, and finally as a buffalo, water buffalo. And then she finally kills him, and then he is gone. And then of course the gods are back into their power. So this is a great painting. Now then, of course, Durga here is, you can see here, riding on a Bengal tiger, carrying all kinds of weapons. Now here she's actually killing the demon. Right here, there's a buffalo down here. That he leaves his buffalo form and appears in a human form, and then she strikes him with a trident, and she kills him. So this is the end of the demon Mahishasura. And then the sign, the celebration that we just celebrated is on the 10th day. For 9 days, she was invoked, she was praised, she was the gods offered puja and all that. On the 10th day, then she fights, and on the 10th day she then finishes him off. So the 10th day is the celebration. Then Hindus put tika celebration with the red mark on their forehead. All right, and this is a part of the same cycle of the killing of the demons in the Devi Mahatmya, when goddess Durga was attacked by various demons. There are various characters, and one particular character is called Rakta Bija. And when she chopped off his head, and when the head dropped, the blood dropped on the ground. When it made contact with the earth, from that, the blood making contact with the earth, then 10 great Rakta Bijas sprang up, ready to fight. They're fully grown up. The 10 great Rakta Bijas sprang up, and then when she chopped off all those 10 heads, then each one multiplying by 10, right? 10 times 10, and then again she did the same thing, 10 times 10. So by the time she looked around, there were a million of Rakta Bijas. So she could not kill them, because every time she kills them, then it multiplies into 10 folds. So she was really frustrated, and then out of her anger, from her forehead, then the great goddess Kali, who is a dark black goddess, she emerged, and then she said, "Go and take care of him." And then she said, "All right, I'll take care of him." And then when she chopped off the main Rakta Bija's head, this is the head of that Rakta Bija. Before it fell on the ground, she collected the blood in a skull, and then she drank the whole blood, and then she did not let a single drop of blood fall on the ground. And that was the end of all the Rakta Bijas, all the 1 million Rakta Bijas that had stood up to fight. They're all gone. So, and this is the Kali, that great Kali image that is often depicted by various artists and in various forms. And let's see. And I did a chapter in a book called the Cosmic Dance of Kali and the Black Hole. I found the characters of Kali very similar to the real black hole. So I did that, and you may read that in the book. So I'm not going to spend time about that. So let me go very quickly. And one thing that I want to compare here is this. The goddess has, like, dichotomy of goddess is so interesting. At one time, she's a beautiful, she's a mother, lovely, charming, kind. And then the next moment, she could also be ugly, like Chamunda. Chamunda is that very old, emaciated, goddess, and then she devours, flesh, and she kills with. She has, look at her, the sword, and then she have, the chopper here. So she carries all of these, the weapons of, slicing, cutting, all that. So she is, stands for death. So she is a nurturing and destructive, submissive and dominant, two sides of the same coin. She is, at one time, she is unknowable, as deep as the ocean, as mysterious as the dark side of the moon. And I have interjected this particular, of course, you may not know this because this happened in the early, 90s. And I was there, when the thing unfolded, and she used to come on TV every day. And so Lorena Bobbitt, I don't know whether you have heard the name, and then you can read about her. And she suffered a great deal of trauma, physical and emotional trauma from her husband. And then one morning she was so frustrated, so she sliced off his penis, and with a kitchen knife right here. And at that time, I thought, I could see her anger. I could see her role as a Chamunda, So that's why I brought her picture here. So, all right. Now, finally, this is my last slide. So I am pretty much done. The Sitala goddess, as you can see here, she is carrying two attributes. One is a broom. She holds it in her right hand, and the other hand she holds a pitcher of water, okay, full of water. And these are all symbolic of cleaning, and this is symbolic of life, giving life, right? So she cleans as well as she, offers water, the elixir of life to the sick and then the weak. So she's in a sense, she's a nurse who takes care of the sick people, and especially during this pandemic time. And I find her very kind of conducive to compare this, our image, with someone like a nurse today, in the hospital, where the nurses who work, 12-hour shift, with wearing a mask. I mean, I really have a lot of compassion for them. And then, of course, I have read a couple of stories coming from India, that during the pandemic time, when India was hit by the COVID-19, there were shortages of medicine, there are shortages of bed, oxygen, and all of that. And especially in the villages, deep pockets of India, and when there are no medical facilities are available, and many people took refuge to goddess Sitala, and they worshipped her. And then whether or not they got better, that's a different story. At least from the point of view of faith, they put a lot of faith into her, and then she was worshipped. She was propitiated by all of these men. So we all need goddesses benediction, right? So let us keep her happy by worshiping or offering our prayers and trying to please our female counterparts. Without them, we cannot go further. So with that, on that note, so I thank you all for joining, and I want to thank Dr. Miroj Shakya for inviting me for this presentation, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deepak Shimkhada, for your outstanding lecture and insightful talk. And we have seen a lot of very good pictures, and it's very rare. Those pictures are even. I'm from Nepal, but I'm not able to see those images because it's in a store in the palace. It's not easy for us to see. So thank you for sharing such a wonderful pictures with us. And now we have a few minutes for a question answer. So if the people on Zoom, so if you have any question, you can type in the chat box. And the audience in our classroom, you can ask in person. So I'll give you a mic. Pascal.
Thank you very much, Professor. A wonderful lecture.
You can
beautiful.
Introduce yourself.
I'm wondering about Tara, and I was wondering if you thought Tara was originally Buddhist or Hindu. Could you shed some light on this? I read a book by a Hindu publication that Red Tara was a higher aspect of Durga or Kali, and I just wondered, could you shed some light on it? We study Tantra and we don't know about the origins of Tara.
Thank you for that question. And then I see my colleague, my friend, Dr. Miranda Shah, who is an expert on Buddhist goddesses, Tara, who has written books on that. So I refer my question to her to answer. I know this is there is a Buddhist implication, there is a Hindu implication. Tara can be found in both Hinduism and Buddhism. Now, where she appears first, that's the question, so may I request Dr. Shah to answer that question.
There was a Tara before there was a goddess named Tara, and she appeared as, you could say, an emissary of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. She was a lotus-bearing emissary and joining his compassionate mission. And then she rose to become, to have her own identity and her own roles, rose very high in the pantheon. And that I've identified as closely as I could as around the 7th or 8th century. So I hope Professor Shimkhada would agree about that. So we don't have evidence. I personally have not seen evidence of Tara in Hinduism, in Hindu settings, before she appeared in the Buddhist. And during that period, the 7th to 8th, the Shakta traditions across India, I think, were in conversation, and they see the different goddesses as manifestations of this primal female force and energy. And so there's not as much of a distinction as we find among them. So one would say that there's a lot of similarities among them. So, for example, Tara shares some of the roles with Durga, for example, and Marichi, the Buddhist goddess, definitely shares some of the, and I'm saying shares, I'm not saying, inherited, but shares some of these roles of Durga, because these are roles that must be fulfilled, right? Protection and assistance, liberation, all these functions. So but just historically, I have not searched for it, but nor did I find evidence of Tara until after Buddhism. And then we know that she arose to some, I'll say fame, I'll say importance, in particularly Kamakya. And the red form of Tara, except for many manifestations, is more Tibetan, as an object of independent, kind of with an independent name and profile as a manifestation of Tara. Okay, thank you for inviting me. Good to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda Shah. So if you have not known her, she's the writer of the Buddhist Goddess of India. It's a very popular book, one of the very best book in Buddhist curriculum. And so next question, then you can come here.
Hello, Doctor. Very interesting to listen from your speech today. This is the first time our class have a guest lecturer like you, and very interesting. I'm a Buddhist monk. I come from Vietnam, and we are in a master program of religious studies. And please give me a question with you. Does look like as we have heard many different workshops in Hinduism with you talked. So after the COVID-19, many people died from the COVID-19 in India. So how did Indians think to Goddess who they used to pray for? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. As I said earlier, Sitala was the goddess that was invoked by many villagers at the time of COVID-19. I know a lot of people died even in the US and a lot of other places. So that was the goddess I think they prayed most, because she's the one who provides relief, comfort. Sitala is a goddess that gives you coolness when you have a high fever. You know, what you need is a coolness and then a relief and comfort. So that's the goddess.
Thank you. Any other question?
Let me take a minute to thank Bipin Shrestha from Kathmandu. Is that Simran also from Kathmandu? Okay, could you introduce how many people are participating from Nepal, from Kathmandu?
You can turn on camera.
Namaste, and good afternoon, everybody. It is nice to have some few words in this awesome presentation. I have my students. I would like to take their name of them: Simran Chitrakar, Animesh Sinha, Animesh Singha, Suhel Vaidya, Sagar Rokaha, renamed as Sagar Art, Riddhi Sagar Swarnakar, and here is Sali. I can see Salina, and one of the students, Swastika Tandukar, has already left. So we have around four to six students participating, and they are all fine art students in grade 11 and 12. So they will be pursuing fine arts as career in the future. So hopefully they have already enjoyed your great presentation. Thank you, Dr. Shimkhada. Thank you, Dr. Shakya.
Thank you, Bipin. So I want to once again thank you, Dr. Shimkhada, for the great talk. And also happy to announce that the third lecture of the series titled Encountering Life, Reincarnation, Body and Spirit by Dr. Louis Lancaster is scheduled for Tuesday, October 26 at 7 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you all can join. And thank you everyone for attending, and stay safe. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.